All right, this is the importance of visual representation of monitoring data. Please put your hands together for Marcel Hecko.
Thank you very much. Well, welcome to this presentation. I'll be giving you a brief overview about what visual representation of data is, and then show you an application I wrote to visualize some information from Nagios for very specific reasons. My name is Marcel. I come from Slovakia. I'm sorry about my voice, because I woke up at 3 in the morning and I couldn't fall asleep, so I was rehearsing the presentation and actually lost my voice for about half an hour. So I hope it doesn't happen again. And also sorry about my English. My English is a mix of all different languages, Englishes all over the world. And the funny thing is that I've been all around the places where people speak English. I've never been to Canada though. And every time I come to a different country, people think I'm from Canada for some reason. I don't know how that works. Maybe because my name is Marcel, I don't know. Okay, so I'll start once again about myself. I'm actually representing a non-for-profit organization. I started while on high school. We started to build the wireless networks all around the capital of Slovakia, Bratislava. It was a community project, so people could build their own access points and connect them with each other. And we're still actually building on top of that infrastructure. We still have that infrastructure, and one of the software I'm going to show you is actually used for monitoring of this infrastructure. I also work for a very large financial institution. We use Nagios and other open source monitoring tools to monitor that infrastructure, but I'm not going to talk about the enterprise related stuff too much. Maybe next year. So data visualization is what it actually is. Sometimes it's called infographics or graph viz, iconography. So basically the way how you interpret data in a visual way. So you have some numbers, you have some text, and you take that text and numbers and lots of numbers, and you're trying to create an image which gives you more information about that whole kind of a data bank of numbers. And one of the most famous visualizations ever made is this one. Have any of you seen it before? Yeah. So it's basically a graph which shows how Napoleon and his army was marching from Europe to Moscow and back. And the width of the line shows you the number of the soldiers in the army. So it actually, so little actually people got to Moscow, and it was just way too cold for them to fight, so they just turned back, and very little people came back. But what I want to show here is that you have so much information put into this graph. You got information like how many people, geographically how they were marching, through, you can actually see rivers. You can see how many, deserters there were at the beginning. People just kind of split from the army. You can see the timeline here. So you get so much different pieces of information put into very simple iconographic like this one. It was made in 1869. And that's great about visualizing data, that you can have so much information and just put them into very, very simple image. Just to kind of go back to monitoring, that I had this vision about the ideal monitoring interface. We have Nagios, we have all the tables and all the information, what's happening, and connections and so on. But sometimes in the future, I would like to see something like this. All systems are in working condition. And that would be like the final frontier for monitoring. It's like, yeah, just IT works. And if something breaks down, it will just say, there is a problem called John. And, you would just know that there is a problem, and John knows everything, and he knows what to do and how to deal with stuff. And you wouldn't have any, kind of trouble with your infrastructure anymore. What I'm going to talk about in this presentation is actually an application I wrote, and I wrote it in 2009. And I saw this slide. This is a slide share screenshot. And this slide is actually Ethan's slide from the NetEye conference in 2010. He was talking about the Nagios Exchange portal. And he used my application to show how you can integrate a third-party application into Nagios. And when I found this, I was so proud of something that I did, that I said to myself, well, there's a very old version on Nagios Exchange. I should probably update it and make it more user-friendly and so on. So I did. And the current status of the application looks like this. This is a very simple way how to visualize the information about your infrastructure. You have your hosts, your network points, you have your logic in it, parent-child relationships, you have services, you have other information. You have thousands of checks which are being monitored on those hosts. But you can actually visualize it in this simple way. So if you have, especially if you have a network infrastructure like we have, like a wireless network like this, it's extremely easy to see which nodes are down, which are unreachable, why they're unreachable. And the way how this is done is so simple that it's just basically a combination of Nagios configuration file, status.file, and Google Maps. So I took two very popular technologies, Nagios and Google Maps, and just merged them together. And it became such a popular project that, yeah, I'm just kind of going too much ahead. And this is actually the only way, the only thing you need to do to start using NagMap. That's what I call the application. So you into the nodes part of your host configuration, you just put the latitude and longitude information about where that host is. It will automatically get that information. It's not directly integrated into Nagios, so it's a separate application. It's written in PHP. It's very simple to hack and code and stuff like that. It uses Google API version 3, so it doesn't need any API key or anything like that. The funny thing about this is it's really small application. It's really something very, very simple. And what I love about open source, I'm a huge open source fan, is that you get a lot of feedback from people who are using the software. But I was very amazed about the feedback I got on Nagios Exchange. And that was, you got NagMap and NagWiz. And NagMap is really simple, just one function thing application which does really, really simple things. It just doesn't do any other thing. It doesn't have any other functionality. And NagWiz is a very complex modular application, great application. There's lots of people behind that. It's really, really good thing. But even though, when you look at the Nagios Exchange, it's just the rates are different. The NagMap it has much more hits. It has much better kind of reviews. And it actually has reviews. NagWiz doesn't even have a reviews, like a text reviews, and a lot of votes. So this was funny because I started to think about the whole concept of creating simple applications like these, just getting simple information and doing very simple coding and visualizing that data. So why this happened? Why people like simple things? Why people like very usable stuff? And I think that there's a great quote from Leonardo da Vinci who says, "Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication." And I think anybody who is writing any code or doing Nagios add-ons or checks or anything like that should probably take some knowledge out of this and try to do things as simple as possible. We had a couple of conversations yesterday about how we could simplify configuration of Nagios. If anyone would like to have a talk about that, it would be absolutely brilliant, because that's something that needs to be probably talked about. So I say, simple application, it does only one thing, one functionality. And it doesn't really have many options. You can tweak. So if you have a very different configuration of Nagios, it might not work. I'm kind of getting lost here, but I'm gonna get it. So I came across the 80-20 rule, which says 80% of problems can be solved by 20% of effort. I'm just gonna skip that. I'm just gonna show you how people use NagMap around the world, which is really awesome, really amazing to see a very simple application like that being used all around the world. And I have this graphics from guys in Spain, and it's pretty amazing how that looks. That they have very complex infrastructure, and it's very easy to show that. So you don't really need much of a cognitive thinking to find problems in your infrastructure. You have 3 kind of red dots, and that's great. So why don't we have more of these kind of infographics plugins for Nagios that can create awesome images like these? I would love to see more of those. This is how many people use NagMap. Just one monitor which shows the infrastructure. If something goes down, there is a red dot. Simple thing. That's how it hangs on the wall. And I got a funny picture from India, and the guy was thanking me for creating such a simple tool to use. And I asked him to send me a screenshot, and he sent me this. I was like, wow. It was like, great. I love that. Yeah. It's brilliant. I mean, people just use that. It's the local address with generic service. And it works. This is how monitoring should look like. I mean, it works. India. Some other pictures. I'm actually not sure where this is. It's also very, very nice, to have a lot of hosts. Talking, that's another one I'm going to show you in the live demo. That's the wireless infrastructure. And this is the one from Argentina. That's also a wireless infrastructure of a local wireless provider. And now my favorite one, a guy from Ukraine sent me a picture of a very interesting project. What they do, they have rails, and they just run fiber optics along the rails, the train rail, right? Train rail. And they have posts along the track. And they have wireless devices along the track, so when people are in the train, they actually have a technology to connect those people through some technology to the internet and use those posts along the track to just, every time connect to the next device. And he showed me an amazing picture, this. And, this is Ukraine, right? It's huge. But the thing is how you can visualize information this way is amazing. You can actually see the track. It's beautiful. Talking about open source software, the people are very creative, and they have their own mods and integrations. And this is one which I really, really like. That's from the guys from Slovenia, right there. And this is also a very nice way how you can integrate the NagMap to a screen. Very nice. again, talking about open source software, there are bugs and reports, and when you talk to your users and you're very prompt, you can really develop your application very quickly, very nicely, and you start finding bugs and kind of things you have never ever thought that you would find. Something like this. That's a very nice infrastructure, but the problem is that actually the green line goes over the red one, so you can't really see properly the red line. And even though it's a small application, it requires a lot of debugging and kind of going through the code and trying to make it as simple as possible for people so they can install it. Although, they still write tutorials. There are about 6 or 7 tutorials in many languages on the internet which are saying how to install NagMap. And that's something amazing because it's such a simple thing. So I was thinking of why would you want a tutorial? Because quite often there is a language barrier. So when you're writing a code or when you're writing any type of documentation, you have to think about language barrier and how people interpret information in documentation. And also, writing tutorials is spreading the word about the application, about the code, about the add-on. I do have a lot of emails asking about Nagios and NagMap. Actually, the most bugs people do while installing, or mistakes they do while installing applications and add-ons are basically 2, that they absolutely don't install. They don't read the install file at all. They just try to figure out how to do that, and they have typos in their configurations. And also, they can be very creative in interpreting written information. So when you're installing some software, people just interpret the information in documentation differently. Pablo Picasso said, "The chief enemy of creativity is good sense." So, and people can be very creative. Something like this in the documentation, just add this into your host definition, into the nodes line like this, right? And people do this, which is very funny at the beginning, but when you get like 5 or 6 emails with the same thing, it's just there's something wrong in your documentation, or how people actually think about what to do. Another thing was recently a discussion about slowness of applications. It's slow. Well, there's not much I can do about Google API, but if you have 900 hosts, it might be slow. That's also from Slovenia. It's a very nice picture. Thank you. I'm gonna show you the live demo of the application and actually how you visualize data. The biggest point of this presentation is to show you that it's great to be creative in what you do with your data, because it's your data and you can really do awesome things with them. Open source them. Many other people can use it. And just be kind of playful with it. I see that many people are interested in visualizing data, but for some reason, nobody is really interested in actually coding it or thinking about possibilities you can actually do with your data. Yeah. What is it? Chrome. So that's the infrastructure I showed you. This is a wireless network in Aberdeen, in Scotland. It actually started as a community project where City Council gave a media organization money to build a wireless network so people from deprived areas who are considered by the Scottish standards poor can access internet for free. This organization was very small. There were just 2 people building the whole network, including the physical installation of the points and doing all the development of the software. It's purely open source infrastructure who is managing the whole hotspot network of the devices. And when there were no more money to keep the people who were managing the network in-house, to keep them in-house, people who had no technical experience need to still pick up phones and ask people questions. People were asking questions: why I can't connect to the network? Am I close enough to any of your access points so I can actually connect? What do I have to do to connect? So it was extremely helpful application, and it still is. That people in the organization can just go here and just find an address. Let's say the person lives somewhere here. They can tell them, yeah, well, there is an access point across the road, or there are other access points around that area. Or for example, if he lives here or she lives here, they can tell him, well, there's a problem with that part of the network right now. We're dealing with it. But they do have information they understand. For example, these people who are on the phone don't understand what ping is. They don't know what really unreachable or down means. They just need to talk to their users and talk to the people. And simple representation of information like this is absolutely great. And also, if you're debugging the network or trying to see where the problem is, it's just so easy to actually to see the topology that this device is down for some reason and the other devices are unreachable. Therefore, I really like that. Okay, that didn't work. Sorry about that. So this is really cool. So this was probably very short. But anyways, I'm glad I made it, because for some reason today is not a good day for me. Thank you very much for listening, and I would really like you to come to me and talk about things when you have some visualization questions or how to create some add-ons for Nagios, how to become a member of open source community. I think this conference is absolutely great for meeting people. And I believe that with Nagios Core being a fully open source application, I think there should be more open source thinking in the community. Okay, well, if there are any questions right now, please ask me. All the code I do can be found on GitHub. There's about 20 or 30 projects, I don't know, all related to, or mostly related to monitoring and data and hacking.
Hi. I was wondering if you could elaborate on the licensing a little bit, because if you look at the Google Maps API, for the current version, they say they obviously haven't thought about a monitoring use case, because they say if you're using it, you have to make it available on the internet, which probably none of us would ever want to do, right? Even though it's not necessarily private information. So you have to buy the business version, but I guess you're using version 3, which just has a limit on the number of uses per day. Like, should we be thinking about allowing people like the key version if Google may not support version 3? I don't know if that made any sense.
Well, I've never. I think Google has a fair usage policy with API version 3, so if you're not really making too much traffic, as in, I think, terabytes of data per day, I don't really think that's applicable. But anyways, I got this question about a month ago, or similar question, and there was a suggestion to use OpenStreetMap. So so I'm thinking of changing or creating another kind of parallel application that would use OpenStreetMap for this.
Cool.
Thank you for reminding me that. I mean, that's something I should probably look at too.
At each location, does it tell you the state of the various services that you're checking at that location, or does it just tell you the up and down status of that location?
Actually, you can actually choose. In the newest version, I released a couple of days ago, you can actually choose whether you want to account the status of the services connected to that host or not. So you either only take the status of the host, or you kind of take the status of the host and the services, and if any of the services is in critical warning state, it will light up that marker as red or yellow.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Speak now or forever hold your peace. We've got one.
If you have multiple devices at one location that you're trying to monitor, how is it represented up on the map?
Actually, I haven't tried that. It's interesting. We should probably try it. It would probably put it into the same place. I'm not doing any checking on that. So, but that's a bug. So I'll fill a bug report now. Thank you.
On the one map, you had the lines between the dots. What represents the lines?
The parent kind of, if you have a parent defined in the host, that's the line which goes to that parent.
Okay.
I'm just going to show the thing again. So basically, if in this case, this marker, well, this marker is parent of this marker, and if this marker is down, it will just render the line red. Is anybody using any type of different visualization tool than the default front end for Nagios? Does it include any types of maps or topological information? It does? What is it?
Nogviz. We use Nogviz,
Okay.
and it has map features.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's a great piece of software. I'm just really curious about why not more people use it. Nagviz.
Sorry. Yeah, we tried Nagios. We're the Slovenians. He showed the pictures. And the problem is the Nagios just takes the screenshot, The main advantage here is you can zoom it, Because if you have, like, Slovenia is pretty small, but we have big city. If you look Slovenia from the whole country. You don't know the city, though. There are so much of devices there, so you can zoom and see the devices in one city, you know, and that's the main advantage. I know you create more maps. I know you can create more maps in Nagios, but I think this is much better. Oh. Oh, great. Yeah, it's still better, right? Yeah. All right.
This is good. We've got some action going back and forth. I like it. Anybody else? All right. Well, then with that, please give a nice round of applause for Marcel Hecko.
Thank you.